Lisa's working today. Sometimes when I do these live streams through Zoom, it gives me a little bit of a challenge. Amazing. So I'm going to do this. All right. So welcome to day one of the 3-day wealth challenge. Get your money right. I'm your host, Lorna Sherland, and I'm CEO of the Freedom Lifestyle. And I am super excited for this week. Guys, you know, when it comes to money, when it comes to how you create wealth, I get super excited. And I'm even more excited because of the speakers my guests that are going to be on here for the next 3 days. So if you're in my community, you are looking to build wealth, you are looking to create financial freedom, you are looking to create time freedom, you're looking to leave a legacy to your family, and you're looking to live a legacy right now. So I am super excited that you're here. And over the next 3 days, we're going to be talking about pillars, building pillars under yourself to start the journey and to expand on the journey wherever you are along the way, right? And our first guest is going to be talking about that today. Tomorrow, we're going to give you more resources on what you can invest in to accelerate your wealth building process. And on Friday, we're going to tie it all together in a little bow and send you out in the world and say to you, okay, now you have the information. What are you going to do with it? And along the way, if any one of the speakers and myself resonate with you, I'm going to invite you into taking the opportunity to connect with us on another level, to have the support, to have the accountability so that you get what you want at the end of this all. And here's what I know. Without accountability, we fall off the track because it's human nature, right? Discipline is not an innate trait. It's not an innate characteristic of a human being. Discipline is learned. Think about all the soldiers that go into the army, right? Before they go into the army, who are they being, right? And when they come out, who are they then? However, if they're not connected to the army after they leave, guess what? They revert to who they were before they went into the army, right? So it is super important for you to have the accountability, to have the community. That is why I started the Freedom Lifestyle Challenge community, because life is a challenge and you get to have community to hold you high, because sometimes we don't hold ourselves high, right? Sometimes we're like, I can't be bothered. You know, and I'll share this with you. I'm doing the 75-day hard challenge. You guys who are in this community, you already know that. I'm on day 24. Let me tell you something. Yesterday was July 4th weekend, and I was outside and I smelled this food. Oh my, right? And the day before, I was like, oh, can I get some cake? No. You're in a 75 hour chat. This is life. So it's like just the analogy, just the connection of, you know, me going through this 75-day hard 75 hard challenge, and the things that I get to discipline myself around so that I get the result that I want at the end of 75 days. And in my mind, I'm beyond 75 days. If I can drink a gallon of water every day for 75 days, I can drink a gallon of water every day for the rest of my life. That's just how I roll, right? Like, I'll take it on because I know the benefits that it has at the end of the road, right? Well, why would I stop? It's a discipline that I created for 75 days. Why would I change, right? And why would I leave the community that I'm in, who are on the same journey I am on, and revert to the thing that I know doesn't work? That's just how my mind works. So I'm inviting you all into really taking this on for yourselves. When I do these challenges, it is my intention for you to really truly build wealth. Like, what will your life look like at the end of December 2023? We're right in the middle of the year right now. And what have you accomplished so far? And whatever you've accomplished, have you acknowledged yourself for it? Number one, you gotta acknowledge yourself for your wins. You gotta acknowledge yourself for your wins, because you know what? If you don't, then all the negatives are gonna take you out, right? That's again why you get to have the accountability, right? So I want to ground you in three things, three mindset pieces, and we're going to go a little bit deeper with our speaker today. But I wanted to ground you in an abundance mindset. You got to have that. There's no scarcity when you're creating wealth. They know it's going to come up. We're human beings. It's going to come up for you, and you get to figure out a way to move past it, move through it, right? Because it's a new way of thinking, right? Mindset is thinking. It's a word that's used all over in the transformation space, in the coaching space, and this word mindset is really a way of thinking. We just don't say thinking, but it's a way of thinking, right? You got to think about the opportunities that are available. In the next 3 days, I'm going to offer you, and the speakers are going to offer you opportunities. But you know what? Sometimes the opportunities look like work. That one. Sometimes the opportunity looks like work, right? And you got to move yourself through that and really keep your eye on the vision of what you want to create, right? I'll share with you this story about that I heard about a woman who, she was rich, and I think I shared this before, but if you're new, listen to it. If you've heard the story before, just listen to it again. Right. So the story goes about a woman who she had everything she wanted. Husband gave her everything she wanted, right? And at one point she was like, I wish I could just go live in a trunk of a car. I wish I just go live in my car, because all the wealth she had was so overwhelming, right? When I analyzed that whole story, my theory around it is that she just wasn't, because the wealth wasn't what she created, it was what her husband created. She just couldn't handle it. So she literally talked herself out of being wealthy, ended up living in her sister's house in a room, and one room, because she had this mansion, because of how she thought, she ended up in a one room house with her sister. So thinking is super important. You got to go through and look at the resources that are available to you, i.e. the ones that we're going to give you over the next 3 days, and stay in possibility. The things we're going to share with you over the next 3 days, you may have heard before and you hadn't paid attention. So you're hearing it again, which is confirmation that you get to do something, right? And if you've already heard it before and you're not experiencing the results from it, that really means that you got to stay in this community, right? I love that you're laughing, Deborah, because I'm telling the truth, right?
Exactly.
And you got to really go through and accomplish all of this through strategic thinking, which is what we're going to share with you throughout the next 3 days, okay? The next piece is the growth mindset. Okay, growth mindset. Growth way of thinking. What do I mean by that? Well, the key to financial freedom is first becoming a student of learning what you don't know. Listen, I've been on the journey. I'm just maybe a little bit ahead of you. I know some stuff now that I didn't know before, right? I've earned a ton of money and didn't know how to invest it, because I used to have a birdie in my ear telling me, oh, you can spend the money. Yeah, you can spend the money. Yeah, you can spend it, but it's how you spend it. right? It's how you spend it and what you spend it on. If your intention is to build financial freedom, financial independence, you got to learn some stuff. That's called financial literacy. Okay. Okay. And then as you learn, make sure you're taking the action. That's super important. All right. The last piece I want to, this one is not gonna land very well with a lot of you. However, it's actually a tie into what I just said. We gotta delay self-gratification just a little bit. Just a little bit. And I'm not saying sacrifice, different word, right? Sacrifice versus delayed gratification, different context. So yes, you gotta plan for it, is what I'm trying to say. You gotta plan for your spending, which is why I'm so excited to bring on this woman, Deborah Marson. This woman is a firecracker. The last time I had her in my community, people were like, who is she? When is she back? And I'm like, okay. Because Deborah knows how to support people, especially female entrepreneurs around, and the men who love them. So men, we're not leaving you out. But she knows how to support individuals into really strategically planning for finances. She is from the corporate world. She's played with the big boys. She knows all the little dirty secrets that they use to make the money. And she knows how to strategically support us into creating wealth, building it, compounding it. And she is here to share with us today about the 3 pillars of building financial freedom. So without further ado, Deborah, I want to welcome you to the first day of the 3-day challenge. I'm excited about what you're going to share because I know how passionate you are about sharing this information. And at this moment in time, I think that one of the things that we do need as a society, especially in the female world, right, is the empowerment to know that we can still accomplish even more than we have accomplished so far. We just have to have the confidence and the support and the accountability behind it. And I think that you're one of the people who do that really well, really well. So I welcome you to this community. And without further ado, I want to just turn it over to you. And you have about half an hour to teach, maybe 45 minutes if you go, not 45 because we got to end. You have to 35 minutes to teach us on, and I'll interject as we go along if I have some questions that I want to really ground the audience, and I'll ask you questions. So if you want to share a little bit more about what you want to cover today and who you are, and then take it away.
Well, thank you, Lauren. I so appreciate that and the kind introduction. I am passionate about especially empowering and equipping women. And I say mature women, and I define that as 60 years old and wiser, in so much as these women, myself included, have been socialized very, very poorly about money. And so I'm kind of on this, no, not kind of, I'm really on this lifelong passion, if you will, of I'm almost theoretically like opening up older women's heads, pulling all that crap out of there, putting in some good stuff, and then sealing it back up and saying, all right, let's face forward, women, let's do this, because it is high time we stop settling for average. You know, the school system sets up a national honor society, right? Like my nephew said to me once, I asked him, how you doing in school? He goes, I'm getting hooks. I said, do you mean C's? He said, yes. The boy was taller than I was at the time. I took him by the collar and I raised him up and I called him by name. And I said, I have just returned from Africa, where I sat at the knee, and I have video of a woman, a mother of 6 kids. 3 of her sons were killed in the Eritrean war, as was her husband. She has 3 remaining daughters. She is in a refugee camp and has been there her entire life. And she works 3 jobs, 3 jobs in order to buy get this, 1 pound of rice for each of the 3 girls and her a week. And here's the killer. And it is a killer. The daughters are saying she's spending too much money on food. They want education. And I want us, especially in America, and leaders all over the world, to take that education and grasp it and search and quench for more to get us further along, because women, especially, this is our ticket. Now, by that, I do not mean all women need is to be financially literate. I like rail against that, because often it's promoted by white male financial pundits that want to kind of banish us back to the library for another 3 decades to read some more. No, I would be horrified if I had squishy brakes and I went into my mechanic and I said, Mike, my brakes are squishy. And he comes back out with a compendium of automotive mechanics. I don't need to know all that. I don't have time for it. I don't want to know. I want to know, in this example, about my brakes. And women want to know the answers to our questions. When? Now. Do we have all the resources within ourselves? Absolutely not. You wouldn't cap your own front tooth. You wouldn't do your own heart surgery. See, we're smart enough to know that. But then the internet and the media tempt us and tease us to think that because we have Google and ChatGPT at our fingertips, we can do finances ourselves. Here's the clue phone. Don't. Do this yourself at your own peril. So what are we talking about? We're not settling for average. And to close that loop on my nephew, he then began to take his education seriously, and he reported straight A's with pride in his voice. And I was so happy to be able, I mean, it's a pretty drastic example, if you don't mind saying, I just come back from Africa, right? And had this example. And yet it is the influence that each of us can command with whomever we're in touch with, right? It's that multiplying effect. We're all talking about return on investment and compounding be the 8th wonder of the world, and Einstein being so bright for saying that. Yeah, it's true. And our leadership, of which Lorna is a huge player, and I also am a player in the leadership space, we women need to rise up into our own power and take radical responsibility for where we are now, where we want to be. And it's not average. No, it's not. And gain the knowledge from the trustworthy sources that will give us that the quickest and with the least amount of cost, so that our trajectory towards our financial goals and dreams, which include philanthropy, incidentally, can be realized, and realized sooner. Now, life isn't a dress rehearsal. Here's the obituaries. I'm going to guess that 98% of the people didn't plan on being there yesterday. We can't default into the someday I'll, because you know when that comes home to roost is when we're at the funeral of the person with whom we were going to someday I'll or we'll do this. Now, not to leave single people out of the equation. I've been single more of my life than I've been partnered. And we have a radical responsibility still to ourselves first. And so I want us to take this, and I didn't coin the phrase radical responsibility, but the first time I heard it, I said, yes, radical responsibility we women get, right? We have responsibilities. Some of us raising kids, having family relationships meld, running kids to practice, running a partner or yourself to your extra activities in addition to your job and your community and your church and your synagogue events. I get it. And yet we want to come home to facing our current situation. And if financially speaking, it's not where we would like it to be, what do we do? Do we do the same thing again and again and again and expect different results? Nope, because we know that that is the definition of insanity. We're a whole lot smarter than that. And yet, if we're undercharging for our goods and services, we may not be in business. Hey, you think that product and service you have is so fantastic? Probably you explain it to me, I'll agree with you. And guess what? You can give me a lifetime guarantee when I purchase it. And that is meaningless if you're out of business in 2.5 years. Let's get serious. Let's treat our businesses like businesses instead of not-for-profits. Everybody's so into tax minimization, reduce, cheat Uncle Sam out of more dollars. Hey, guess what? That money, that net income is going to be calculated as what type of Social Security or whatever it will be named when you get there in terms of a return, if you will, some type of retirement, supplement. And so, paying taxes is not a bad thing. Paying more than you owe in taxes, that is not smart. So we want to charge the going rate, if not a higher rate. And I was in a very, very high level master's degree program, coaching program. And the leader of that program said, if 30% of your customers aren't kind of choking when you say your price, you're probably not charging enough. And then he addressed the women in the group and he said, women, you need to increase your prices by 50%. And I'll go you one further. Black women and Latino women and Indian women, and certainly other gendered women, have to raise your prices even more because the systems are against your having earned the money that you're otherwise trained and skilled to earn. Just be conscious of that, right? Then we have to understand that if our budget is upside down, we're going nowhere fast. It's like getting into a boat. You can see the hole in the boat as you come from the dock and step into the boat. You can see a glaring hole that by the time you put your weight in the boat, the hole is going to be below the water level and you are going to sink. Why can't we make that same deduction when we're living paycheck to paycheck and our income isn't sufficient to cover our expenses? Now, many of you are way past that. And so let's talk about cash flow. If we're speaking of cash flow in the past tense, let's face forward and talk about, is your cash flowing? Because I don't give two hoots about your net worth if you can't pay your bills. You see, liquidity is important. And Lauren is a specialist on real estate. She understands, and most of us understand, the need for liquidity in our financial portfolio. And so we'll have, like I make an analogy, fingers on our financial hand. Some of them will be real estate. I happen to have 4 properties. One of them does nothing for me. It's raw land. The other one give me rental. One is a principal residence, etc. It is about us shaping and crafting our portfolio so that some of our investments are giving us return. And so we want to bring finances, if you will, into the women's common sense wheelhouse. You see, I was raised on a little humble 100-acre beef cattle farm, and it was very, very rural and very rudimentary in many, many respects. I was taught a very good work ethic. And yet I talk about silos, right? And my experience having advised women in particular and men as well for 42 years and now coaching for an additional 2 years is that finances are kind of over here in this silo, if you will. And I want us to bring it right into our, particularly women being hardwired with common sense, our wheelhouse. I want us to ask that second and third question. Yes, I do. I don't want us to take anything at face value, most especially these active get-rich-quick schemes. And cryptocurrency marketing was aimed at whom? Most especially women, minorities, who probably know at some cellular level they're undersaved and they're looking for an elixir. They're looking for quick fix. Maybe some of the reason why people play the lottery, which I otherwise call a tax on the mathematically illiterate. I don't like that idea because every day at 6 o'clock or whenever they announce the winners, I don't even know when it is, you get it on your electronic device or whatever. And you go like 2, 4, 7, 8, 2. You see, it's a daily cementing of, I lost. Guess what? I ask my clients all the time, what would you do with the lottery winnings if you won it? And then we laid plans to do pretty much to a T what they were imagining that only a windfall, only luck could bring them. I've got a different prescription. Planning will bring us most of what we want in life. Yes, it will. So, number one, I want us to be radically responsible for who we are right now. That takes courage, women. Yes, it does. It takes courage to sit here and say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And it also takes courage and a lot of acuity to say, and thanks be to God, I am in a good space with something that heretofore I've struggled with. We want to have that celebratory facet to the entire exercise. Yes, we do. That's why in life you have prizes, you have medals, you have ribbons, you have all kinds of cash prizes for winning. And winning begets winning. So I want us to focus on the winning, yes, so that we do have a winning mindset. So radically responsible is nothing to be trifled with. It's, are we ready? Are you sick and tired of not having what you want, of being average, when other people around you, and some people, which you kind of think, I think I'm maybe a little smarter than them, and they're bringing in the cash flow and other things that you may find attractive. Number two, we want to have commitment to change, right? You wouldn't be here if everything, all your ducks were in a row. You'd be doing your thing, right? And so I want us to unlock perhaps the three most expensive words in the history of humankind. And what are they? I know that. Holy camole. Here is the key to unlock that handcuff. You can't afford to say, I know that. Because about 90% or north of that, you probably could use whomever you're speaking with opinion about that, whether or not they hold a degree in it. They may have life experience that far supplants and supersedes book knowledge. That's why after 42 years of advising high net worth clients and managing their money to help them achieve their goals and up-level their philanthropy to levels they never even dreamt of, and we teased those dreams out. That's why I said, wow, I've got stuff between my ears that includes my investment experience, the investment experience and the behavioral finance tripwires of all of my clients, and it's too much to keep here. I want to leverage it. And so I have a commitment to doing that. So we had to realize it's not enough to get our finances right once. No, it's not. We have to get them right again and again. Now, I took in a lot of do-it-yourself clients, and they were smart, really smart. Mostly they had a lot of expertise and experience in investments, picking investments. And then sometimes their myopia was so centralized in investments that the other areas of financial planning were ignored. And as I want to say, one lawsuit can ruin your whole morning, right? So if you don't have your liability handled, if you don't have the groups of zero risks handled by passing that on to an insurance company in exchange for a premium, then picking Tesla versus Microsoft is really the emphasis on the wrong syllable. So what I want to convey is we want to have a commitment to ourselves to reach beyond our experience and our history and the one or two victories we have, because everybody tells you that they bought Apple for $4 a share. And what they don't tell you was they didn't insure their partner, and at their partner's untimely death, they suffered horribly financially. They won't tell you about those because it's not good cocktail party conversation. Let's come home to ourselves. Let's value ourselves enough that we don't have to tout our one or two victories. We can just bring it home and bring in the learning that we're going to reach outside of ourselves to people that are far smarter than we are to get that experience. Now, I brought on do-it-yourself for clients, right? And you know, I think I had my master's degree in retirement planning. They got to a space in life, an age, if you will, a phase in their life where some people called it like, this was our serious money. I had couples come to me and often in a heterosexual couple, the woman would say, you know, honey, this is serious. You know, this is our retirement, right? And in the olden days, from whence I come, because I was in practice 42 years, we had defined benefit pension plans, and you made those retirement elections, those payout elections, they were irrevocable. You could not go back and change them. That's what irrevocable means. And these were serious things. So as I looked as a young 21-year-old, you know, little white girl, you know, carrying a briefcase in one hand and a towel to wipe the wet behind my ears in the other hand, I said to myself, oh, when is the period in a person's life where it means the most to get these decisions right? hands down retirement. Boom, got my master's degree in retirement plan. So people came to me as they were 5-10 years before retirement, and they were kind of like, hey, take a look at this. And guess what? To a person, they continued to pay my fee and engage my services year after year after year. And it wasn't because I have a cute smile. You see, there was some extra value added they hadn't factored in. There was some nuance in the tax law that they didn't know or know how it applied to them. You can read the headlines. I have 8 news sources on my cell phone, and I am apprised of the headlines, at least daily, from 8 different sources, all ideologies. That's the intention. And so like one of my biggest victories in being a financial advisor, I had a bunch, like getting a man who was actually HIV positive. I got him extricated from his job, and we used a legitimate injury that he had to get him on a disability claim before the record of the HIV hit the MIB, the Medical Information Bank, and he retired on full disability, and he moved to Florida to a warmer location and less stress, and he lived another 16 years with HIV, then full-blown AIDS, 0 T cells, reversed that. Yes, he did. Okay, so that was a huge victory, but a financial victory was I'm sitting around a table, a very large board table with my richest client, and 2 of his accountants are there and 2 of his attorneys are there. And they're willing to bite off a $250,000 capital gain to fund a cash flow need that had come up rather urgently. And they all factored it. We factored this in, and I leaned forward. I'm the only woman, first of all, on that table. And I lean forward and I say, how about we free up this with 0 capital gains? And we did. See, I'm saving that client $250,000 in capital gains. Do you think for one moment he is going to quibble that the quarterly performance report on his financial assets happened to misbeating the Standard & Poor by 0.27% this quarter? You see? But when we pay attention to the media and the changing and the volatility of the prices every nanosecond or every day and at close, this, my friends, is the emphasis again on the wrong syllable. We want to be unit gatherers, right? And so when we're investing systematically, this sounds counterintuitive. So if you have a chair, if you're sitting down, grab the arms. You want the price to go straight down. Why? Because if you're investing systematically, let's just use the math, simple, $100 a pay, and you're buying something that's $10 a share, and let's go drastic. The first month you're buying 10 shares, but let's go drastic. It goes down 50%. And a lot of people would like, what? It's horrible, right? Well, it goes down 50% and you're spending the same $100. You didn't buy 10 shares this second month like you did the first month. You bought 20 shares. We're wanting to build a storehouse of shares. We're going to have shares here, and we're going to have shares in our financial assets, and we're going to have shares in our real estate portfolio. We're going to have shares in our qualified retirement plans, and in our non-qualified, in our Section 2529, and our Roth, and our traditional, and our SEP, in our individual case. All of it. And then we're going to choose with our financial advisor from whence shall we draw the first amount of money that we need. What are the tax costs of each dollar we draw? And I would take my mouse right across and say, of the $15,000 we need to redo your bathroom, we're going to take $12,400, that precise, yes, from here, because the tax cost is the least. And we're going to take the rest from here and here. See, that's what no do-it-yourselfer can do. I paid tens of thousands of dollars of software costs, not to mention my training to do that. So I want us to stop absolutizing. I don't even know if that's a word, but I want us to have a commitment to change to what's happening now, because I inherited a few widows and they said, oh, Jack bought this stock and I'm going to hang on to it. Great. When did Jack buy the stock? 15 years ago. What did Jack's notes say in his papers that he left behind as to why he bought this stock? Oh, he didn't leave any notes behind. I don't want to trash widows. I can assure you it is a most vulnerable situation. And yet the absolutizing, oh, well, I'm married filing jointly and that's how I'm filing. How about if one of you has a serious health situation? Maybe this year you file married filing separately, you know, right down to the devil in the details I'm going to get. Yes, I am, because that matters, sisters. And so is it proper and prudent, the most prudent, to invest in your Roth IRA, or should you do traditional? Should we talk about tax minimization in terms that we mean today and today only? Or might we imagine that if we aren't in the obituaries, we're going to need lower taxes in later years? So Lorna can talk circles around you. Should you use a 1031 in real estate? I'm not so sure. It's a snappy little triangle. And yet with capital gains at the rate they are, maybe I bite off and pay the capital gains. Now, you see, there's planning involved. And let's get to number 3, intentionality, right? So our first, pillar is radically responsible attitudes and realizations, being radically responsible for where we are financially. Number 2, being committed to change, because I'm sensing that once we get into that radical responsibility, we're going to see pockets that need to be changed or we want to change. And then we have the intentionality. Henry Ford and Eleanor Roosevelt were both right when they said, if you think you can or you can't, you're probably right. So without intentionality and a vision board and daily meditation and a gratitude journal or something self-centering to keep your focus on the plan that you have now laid, hopefully with the expert advice of a fiduciary financial planner. And that's the question. Well, here's the question. We used to be able to say, ask your financial planner if they are a fiduciary. Well, we can't do that anymore. I just got a little lunch invitation ad from a guy. And, it used to be fiduciary. The word fiduciary just meant fee only. Now, the last 21 years of my 42 years, I practiced fiduciary, which meant fee only. I gave up almost 6 figures of renewal income every January 1 to make that leap, because I said to myself, I never want a high net worth person, say, Deborah, what's in this for you? I don't even want them thinking it. So I'm not trashing commission salespeople. There's a place for them, but it's not on the train engine. No, it's not. We have to have the train engine be masterminded and called and strategized with a fiduciary planner. So this guy says he's a fiduciary, and there's the stamp fiduciary for his financial planning. But then he has 3 different subsidiary corporations where he sells insurance and high commissioned investments and annuities and variable annuities and life insurance, right? So now here's the question. This is worth the price of the admission of the whole event. Here's what your question. Excuse me, Mr. Financial Advisor. If I work with you, and at some point in time, I end up purchasing a financial product, will you make any commissions? If there's any waffling on that answer, turn away and go and find yourself a fee-only planner who will simply do the heavy lifting. And I make every intentionality around those words. It's simple when we get the chaff pulled away from the wheat. Okay. I don't want us focused on the wrong things, because there's no time to focus on but the right things. Some of us have been dealt financial setbacks. I have. Warren Buffett has admitted to, I think, 5 or 6 billion. That's a B dollar mistakes. Who do we think we are to do financial investing in particular of any nature and not make a misstep? But misstep is different than mistake, because mistake ends up being like cement shoes and it paralyzes us. Oh, that hurt. 17 years ago, it hurt. Yeah. How about we have a misstep, which connotes movement, and we move towards the next best step. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous teaches people in the program. Make the next best decision. And so whatever your notion, whatever your cementing influence is it a vision board? Is it something that centers you from an iPhone or an application, or you stare into nature? I don't care. I want you to focus in on the goals. I want them to be written. I want you to see them. And I want you to go ahead. And as Lorna said at the top of the hour, I want us to substitute the old actions, which might have been, oh, I'll just go ahead and cheat on this diet. That always drives me crazy. Like, if I'm on a good diet per se, people talk about cheating. I'm like, I don't know, but I'm weird. I will just admit that I'm weird. I could never understand that. This is my body. If I'm unhappy with it, I'm unhappy with blood pressure, I'm unhappy with weight, I'm unhappy with muscle tone, with flexibility, then cheating, I really need to step back into I need to come back to the home base, radical responsibility. I can talk about adopting a new lifestyle for a season. Then I stop, I reflect on it. This part's good. This part's sustainable. This part I'll go on hiatus for 3 months. All about that. You see, there's a very, very significant difference. Because the second we say I cheated, or a person with addiction falls off the wagon, they go back to zero. They're starting to earn another coin in the Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have a lot of friends that have earned those. I don't want us to lose, and I don't want us to memorialize our losses. By no stretch of the imagination is that helpful. You don't even have to pay a psychiatrist or a psychologist to know that. I just said it today. Don't do that. Now, I know better than to say don't, because the human mind takes out the knot, right? You tell a kid, don't touch that stove. Burp. That's right. So we want to speak in the affirmative. Speak towards what we're seeking, towards the end result. So if you're sick and tired of losing and you want to win, follow the example of athletes, musicians, students. Hire a good coach. Hire a winning coach. Hire someone who's done what you're attempting to do. Pay them, listen to them, implement, and query them, and come back to them when whatever they're saying doesn't jive with your experience or your reality. This is a give and take, women. And I want us to be in this game to win. Because I've won and I've lost. And I can tell you, I learned a good number of lessons in losing, and I will continue until the last breath I take. And I am ecstatic about my wins. And I am more ecstatic about the women that I end up showing a new vision about finances to. That money, in fact, is a tool. And it's not to be worshiped. And it's not going to be the guarantee to your happiness, else there would be no, rich people divorcing, right? I get it. It's a tool. But you see, most people waste and sacrifice their health the first half of their life making this. And then the next half of their life, they spend a good deal of this trying to get back the health. And why don't you just take that, if you haven't had the idea of that before, and say, why don't I just shortcut that, right? Why don't I circumvent all of that painful learning that my sisters and others have done, and I've done in other areas of my life? Why don't I get the fast track, right? Anybody ever use Cliff Notes in college? I did. You bet. I want to get there fast. That's why I don't want anybody telling me to become financially literate. Nonsense. We want to know that there are fiduciary planners that do not accept commission because they give advice. And you can find them, and I will put this in the chat, www.napfa.org, the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors.org. And that will give you fee-only people. And I don't care if I had clients in 28 states. It doesn't matter to me where you are, right? So get somebody with whom you can connect and find get the plan, tease out your goals and objectives, put in a shell of a plan, then put, what we say, meat on the bones, if you will. And then you're going to nuance and shift. Something's going to hit you upside the head, like unexpected, right? We're planning for all the expected, and then boom, that unexpected, right? Believe you me, I have taken people through almost all the horrific things that happen to people. And here's what makes the difference between how successful these people are in their response to these unexpected events. If they have the plan, they can actually say, what's next, instead of what next? You see, that connotes this whole kind of abandon, right? This just kind of like horrific abyss. No, it is horrific, these unforeseen. They're almost always emotional, highly emotional. And what is going to get us back onto center and respond to those in a way that if a person has died, they would want us to do, that's the focus, that's the refocus, that's the rechanneling. And so I want us to be in a space of intentionality. And so I want us women to face forward. Yes, we all have lessons. Yes, we all had missteps. And I want us to own that, come into radical responsibility with ourselves, be committed to change when change is necessary. And probably it is if you haven't hired a person with the specialty of financial advising, and be intentional about following through and getting the prize. You deserve nothing less.
Wow. Wow. Wow, Deborah. So many, you said so many things in that. Let me just breathe it, take it in. Because you're such an advocate for people winning at this game. I just admire your passion around this. So I just have a couple of things I want to just ground. You said a lot of things I said at the beginning, which is interesting because we didn't have a conversation about what we're going to talk about other than just the pillars, right? But a lot of the things that you said were actually just stretching on what I said in the beginning. So the biggest thing I heard you say is not to worry about the failure, the misstep, because through that, we can see what didn't work, what worked, right? And then make the adjustment, make the pivot, and still step into the vision by revamping the plan or just changing the goal, right? So a lot of times, one of the things that I see, and even myself, I used to do this, and every now and again I do it because I forget sometimes, right? Even
Sure.
though I teach this stuff, I forget it sometimes. Yesterday I was talking to somebody and I'm like, oh, I just coached that yesterday.
Yes, exactly.
It was interesting. So a lot of one of the things that I realized when I got into this space is that people they are misunderstanding vision, plan, and goal. They actually use all the three as one, and they're actually three separate things.
Really?
Right? The vision is the lighthouse, right? You have a goal, that's the action steps that are going to take you there, but the plan is actually the layout, the outline, the thing that guides the goal, right? So do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I thought you encapsulated that beautifully. And I really think that it's important. And you know what, I always have this notion, and I say this all the time, and what Wall Street won't tell you, what Wall Street won't tell you, and the insurance companies won't tell you, is that you really should have a plan first before you anywhere near think about buying a product or being sold a product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yet we find ourselves with these products. Why? Because there's huge, did I mention large commissions associated with life insurance and annuities. Mm-hmm. And those get pushed on people, and especially women, and especially compromised women, widows especially. And I've unwound unsuitable sales because the sales, the solution, if you will, did not match the problem. You've got insurance and annuity salespeople that are like this hammer and everything. Oh, I'm going to send my child to college. Life insurance. I need to, supplement my income. Life insurance. I need to, save for retirement. Life insurance. Forget it. Life insurance is good for one thing. If someone on whose income you're dependent or otherwise relying dies prematurely, how will you make it without their income? Buy life insurance. Now we talk with a salesperson as to the types, etc. But it's not right to blame women. First of all, let's not blame the victim, like having all these products and we don't know how they fit together. Guess what? It's not your imagination that you think you're crazy because you have all these things and yet you don't feel secure, right? Well, because no one made the plan and gave you the context for these products. No one said to you, Lorna, you want to, you want to buy a second home in 10 years. So here's a little real estate opportunity. Let's pop in here. It's about a 10-year hold. And I don't know if it's going to make it or not. If it doesn't, 9 years, 11 years, we have some wiggle room, right? That gives you context. Okay, check. That's in my, so we want to have a vision board. We want to draw out our goals on a timeline. I have a beautiful one I've invented myself. And this will prioritize first and then put a dollar figure on it. And then we pretty much earmark an investment that's most suited towards getting us to that goal. You cannot send a girl to do a woman's job. So do not send a bond to do a stocks retirement job, a 7+ year goal job. That's for stocks and real estate. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it comes down to common sense.
It sure does. It sure does. And insurance also can be a leveraged item as well. I'm doing some stuff in insurance that I think is good leverage, compounding and those sort of things. So it's all about, Deb talked about the fiduciary. It's all about being a true fiduciary is who you get to find to support you if you're going to use insurance as a vehicle to wealth building. Because they're different products in insurance, right? Just like there are different products in real estate, right? You have residential real estate. I know you said, Deb, you have a few properties, residential, some that are investment properties that are bringing you income and some that are just sitting there and just being there, right? At some point, though, that property is going to bring you some return on investment. All right, I'm glad we're having this conversation too, because tomorrow my guest is going to be an insurance expert. And so I would love you guys to come back. If you're on Facebook, please put on your calendar to be here tomorrow. That's going to be another slew of information that you need to know about, especially because there is a way for you to actually, depending on where you are on your journey, if there's already enough money in the right investment vehicle in insurance, you can actually use that to purchase real estate. All right, so we talked about the plans, we talked about the goals and objectives, we talked about the vision, we talked about failing forward. Write that down, failing forward. I think we have people here. If there are any questions at all, put it in the chat. And if you're on Facebook with us, just put it in the chat. If you're watching the replay on Facebook, still put your comments and your questions in the comments on Facebook, and I'll go back in and I'll make sure I answer your questions. Okay, but please be here tomorrow live because it's more juicy and you get to get your questions answered live by the speakers when you're here live. So Deb, before we wrap up today, I want to ask you a question because you said something to me. You said something during your talk that was really interesting to me. You and you said it twice actually. You said the system is set against the for lack of a better word, the minority woman.
Yes.
Why did you say that? Because you said that about crypto. It was geared towards women who are looking for a quick return on investment to their money because they weren't set up for success initially. What made you draw that conclusion for yourself?
Well, first of all, yes. I mean, I read it on a couple of different sources about the marketing engine, right? And that's a huge engine, I mean, our parents didn't like push on a electronic device that we held in our hand and, buy something from Amazon and it's in a locker 2 blocks away in 14 minutes. That just didn't happen. So marketing is huge. And people who are vulnerable are targets. Let's get serious.
Mm.
So first of all, I just became aware there's a bias and it's starting to be tracked against obesity. Overweight workers are completely discriminating, and people are putting numbers to it, how much it matters, right? So you just take wage gender disparity in earnings, right? I'm not even talking about you were passed over for a raise when 3 white men got their raise. I'm not talking about, all the extras, right? I'm not talking about the extra company match in the 401k to the salary that's already, 10% or 18% lower than the white male counterpart. So I'm simply saying, if we're not white male in America, right, there's some systemic injustice that we ought to be conscious of, and not take care of a chip on our shoulder, but simply say, I'm conscious of this. I'm going to have to be twice as good or 8 times as good. I have to work this much. And I'm going to chip away and hire people in the legislature that also understand systemic violence. It's not enough to say, I'm not racist. One of my best friends is Black. That is interesting. It has nothing to do with change. I'm interested in change. I'm interested in taking down and disbanding the systems that give people a stop sign before they even got to home base to take a practice swing. That's what I am passionate about. And women have not gotten the financial mentoring
opportunities. Mentoring.
We have. And so I am here to talk to you about the truths about money, not send you back to the library and read up a whole bunch of nonsense. Probably not much of it will be useful.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because I just want to be clear who I'm talking to, because we could have a whole different workshop around this, right? Because even last week there was was it a bill or something, some law, something that they pulled, affirmative action. It was actually affirmative action. Did you catch that?
Oh,
we can have a whole thing on that, how they changed the rules on affirmative action,
right,
and college entrance for certain things, except.
Exactly.
And I was like, interesting. So I'm glad you're bringing to the forefront that as women, we get to be super aware. Awareness is always the first piece of transforming anything, right? Whether it's your money, your relationship, whatever, yourself, it's always the first piece. So becoming aware that these biases exist, and how to maneuver yourself so that you can win. Right? Because you're only going to win for your family if you get to win first. Right? So, which is a whole nother conversation again. So I'm glad that you brought that up to the forefront, because people get to be super aware of that. All right, my friend, we're just around time. Before we hop off, I want to say 2 things. One, I'm going to be offering a 6-month program, real estate investing for female entrepreneurs, that's going to be starting up. And I'm going to put the link in the chat. I'm also going to put it in the Facebook group. And Deborah, you have a class that started July 12th, don't you?
I do. I have a 3-part class, July 12th, 19th, and 26th, 3 successive Wednesdays. You can pop over to We Can Do It Women, wecandoitwomen.com/blueprint. I put in the chat, our horrible socialization is not our fault, women. It is our responsibility. To your point, to get it, to understand it, to recognize it. And now what do we do to correct it? That's where I want us to put the emphasis.
Absolutely. All right, Ms. Deb, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your passion. I acknowledge you for who you be in the world and your stand for transformation, not just in the financial space, but in the world as a human being, as an individual. I appreciate you taking your time today, and I look forward to having you on again.
You're welcome. Thanks, Lorna.
All right. Take care.
Be well.
All right, I didn't see any questions in the chat. Let me stop the Facebook recording.
Okay, so